Welcome back. Minnesota officials are now upping the ante against the federal government and suing to get access to evidence they say the feds are withholding in the killings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy. Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty says the federal government has gone back on its promise to cooperate with state investigators, and they want answers. Federal officials say Minnesota lacks jurisdiction to investigate these cases. Let's bring in Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty, who filed this suit. Mary, there isn't much precedent for a state suing the federal government over obtaining evidence in an investigation. What made you finally decide to move forward with this suit?
Well, there's not much precedent because this is unprecedented that the federal government has refused to share information with our state law enforcement agency, which is called the BCA. You need only look last summer at the political assassinations that we had here, where both the FBI and the BCA did a joint investigation. That investigation went to both my office and the U.S. Attorney, and we're both prosecuting separately. That is historically how things have happened here in Minnesota. So the reason that we filed the lawsuit was that we went through the process that we are supposed to do by rule, called the TUI process. In other words, we can't subpoena a federal agency for the information we don't have. So we went through that process. We made a case for why we needed that to investigate, and we did not get a response from the Department of Justice at all, not a response at all. So our next step was to file a lawsuit to ask a judge to order the federal government to give us that information. And we do have jurisdiction. Anytime anyone commits a crime in a state, in the state of Minnesota, local prosecutors have jurisdiction to investigate that case and to bring charges if appropriate. We've heard from the administration, although I think they're backing off of this, that there's absolute immunity. That's just not the case. That's just not the case. There is a defense that the defendant could allege if we charged, but we absolutely do have jurisdiction. And my goal here is to bring transparency and potentially accountability if a crime was committed in both or in all three of the cases, Renee Good, Julio Sosa Solis, and Alex Preddy.
So what specific evidence are they withholding from you? What are you hoping to get your hands on?
So if we start with Renee Good, they took her car, and typically our BCA would have done a lot of processing of that car. We know that there was a bullet hole in the windshield, but they would have done a lot of 3D kind of processing. We don't know. They took the gun, they took the ballistics, and we don't know whether any of the agents made any statements. In the Preddy case, for instance, they took the gun, they took the ballistics, and we also don't know whether any of the agents gave any statements. We don't have personnel records. We don't have training records. So those are things that we want, that we should have. But I will also say they're not necessarily things that will prevent us ultimately from deciding whether to bring charges or not. But in a normal investigation, I'm sorry.
Have you been able to get any of the evidence collected by federal authorities?
None. In fact, our BCA has tried very hard to work with the FBI. And I should say the local agents here, the FBI, the U.S. Attorney's Office, they want to cooperate because that's the way it's always been here. It is the administration that is engaging in a pattern and practice of hiding evidence from us.
You've encouraged the public to send in videos and photos to your office related to these shootings. Where does your independent investigation stand today?
So we received over 1,000 submissions to that portal. The portal was very unusual, but we felt because of the number of people that were at these scenes and the fact that they were videoing and the fact that a lot of the evidence we were actually seeing was being leaked by the federal government, such as Jonathan Ross's video, that the best opportunity we had to collect all of the evidence out there was to ask the public to do that. And I know that we received information from the public that we would not otherwise have received. So that's been very successful. And the BCA continues to do interviews, and we are looking at all three of these cases independently.
How can you move forward then with this probe if you don't get all the evidence that you're requesting from federal officials?
So we receive cases every day. We receive thousands of felony cases in this office every year. And rarely do we have a case that's perfect. You know, a perfect prosecution case would be the gun, the ballistics, video from every different angle, all the witnesses and confessions and all that kind of thing. We just don't get that in cases. And this is not different. There are some unusual barriers, such as we haven't had confirmation of who the people were who shot Alex Preddy. However, what we will do is look at all of the evidence that we have, and we will decide whether we can prove beyond a reasonable doubt that a crime was committed. Now, the defense will, we anticipate, move to transfer the case to federal court. That creates other barriers, but we are also working on anticipating what we would do if that should happen.
Sounds like you have a few steps planned ahead. Thank you, Mary Moriarty, for bringing us this update, and we'll keep following the trajectory of this lawsuit that you've now filed and look forward to having you back. Thank you.